Hi guys, welcome to the PADcast. We are talking about dads today and their experiences of being a dad and different issues and topics. There may be trigger warnings as well when they're talking about different issues. But introducing is Lucy,
Calvin,
Matt,
Gemma.
I'm Kieran, and I'm joining you from the laptop on a virtual call.
Kieran, what are your challenges? What you've experienced?
Well, there's a few. I think the main ones are always around communication and learning about what's happening. I think now that my kids are older, it's the transitions that you have every time they go through a new developmental stage. So the first ones were around, people call it sleep regression. It's not really. It's like how babies get rid of all the stuff they don't need in the brain anymore and start learning new stuff. So it's kind of a really positive step. But it doesn't feel like that to a parent when they're sleeping through and then suddenly they're not sleeping through anymore. That was the first one, I think, where I really accepted that was a challenge. Since then, now my 24-year-old only speaks to me when she wants money. My 17-year-old doesn't like hugs anymore, suddenly, although she used to hug all the time. So getting used to my role in their changes has been a bit of a challenge.
Do you feel as well, like, from being a baby, there was like, you have them worries, but now because they're older, I think the worries are more stronger, aren't they, as from teenager to being adult, because obviously they're going out on their own and society is totally different, and when you grew up as well, it's totally different, isn't it? So
I think actually that speaks to some of the research that we know about that shows that dads parent differently to mums, and dads are more pro-social and pro-risk assessment parents. We've got a video on our website that's really good and explains it much better than I can. But that means basically we take a baby and a toddler and we turn them to the world and go, here's the world. It's going to be difficult. Let's figure it out together. Whereas mums kind of nurture inwardly and hold them and protect them from the stuff around them. And that's why we're different. So I think when I've been parenting in the earlier years, I've done a lot of that rough housing play, rough and tumble play, encourage them to climb up trees and fall off bikes and all the stuff that you do as a dad. Now that they're older, I think it was challenging watching them become more independent and worry about what that independence might mean for them. But I also felt like they knew where I was when they needed me, and that I think was always the purpose of parenting. But I don't think a lot of mums that I speak to feel like that. They feel like they still want to do that inward nurturing. Like, if things are too tough, come home. We'll always have a bedroom for you. My mum said that to me when I was in my 30s. You know, it's just one of them things that I think we worry about it. But if we know we've done a good job, and even if we've only done half a job, we've still done enough for our kids to be okay.
Yeah. What do you think? You were on about this one.
Well, quite limited experience in terms of ages. My daughter only just turning 2. I found that obviously the one thing I found, especially at the beginning, is the process of elimination on how, okay, is it this, and it's like a little mental tick box that you have to do. But I think the one thing that I'm really conscious of at the moment is you just get used to something and then there's a change. So like that 0 to sort of 3 months there wasn't, and then there's a bit of a change, and then you move into the weaning. And I remember one day I wasn't feeling so well and my wife was like, oh, did you give her the pouch? I was like, no. She went, well, and you've been feeding her? I was like, well, I've been giving her a milk. She's like, she's on pouches. I'm like, I didn't know. So she's starving. I was like, no, she's not. And I just felt really like, So it's just, you're just moving through these different sort of stages and you just get used to it, and then it's on to the next one. And in a weird way I thought, oh, once she's walking things will be much easier, and then it's like, nope, because now she's
eyes in your ass.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges in those early years is, and then for me in the first 2 years, is just as I get comfortable, we're on to the next thing. And I think going back to obviously what Kieran was just saying then about, like, I would call it sleep regression, there's attachment and stuff like that, but no, he's absolutely right. I can tell she's learning more stuff because vocally she's communicating better, and even the way she's moving and she's climbing, and you can see all these the cognitive sort of things. There's just so much is actually changing with her. But yeah, it's one of the things you just don't get comfy. Is the advice I'd give. Don't get comfy, because the second you think, right, I've got this nailed down now, there's something else that you're
and
sort of
as
dealing
well,
with.
I don't think you ever have a sleeping anymore.
No.
I don't know what sleeping is.
God, no.
I don't think you ever go in a deep sleep as a parent, because every noise you hear is like, what's that kind of thing.
My watch said I got 8 hours and 59 minutes last night, and I was looking at it, what? I had more than 8 hours in months. I was like, what's going on? But again, I think it's just because she's not been sleeping right. She must have been absolutely shattered last night because she just slept. Didn't get her down until about 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock it might have been. It would have been about 9:30. But yeah, she slept in. It's like 8:15 this morning. I was like, so I was late to work this morning because I didn't set an alarm, because I don't set an alarm anymore. Since having a child, I don't set an alarm. She's the alarm. She is the alarm. I'm not an alarm set. Your body clock
literally automatically wakes up.
So she woke up and I looked at the time and it said 8:15, and I just thought, I'm going to have to quickly get ready now, didn't I? Anyway, So.
And do you know from that as well, do you know, because obviously you guys are all working, and how has it been being a working dad and leaving them, and as well as your jobs as well? How have they helped you in the process of, like, well, you get your 2 weeks off? Do you think that should be? I think that should be longer as well for first-time dads. Maternity leave, definitely, because them 2 weeks, that's all you're not going to.
Do you know what? I will say my employer has been absolutely fantastic. I got she came a week earlier, and I said, I'm going to have to reshuffle my paternity leave. She said, don't worry about it, take an extra week on us. I was like, okay. So I had my 3 weeks paternity leave. And because I knew my wife was struggling, I was just had like honest conversation with my boss. And I said, look, here's what's going on. I said, I've got plenty of annual leave to take. Can I take some? And she was like, yeah, absolutely. So I ended up with 5 weeks off initially in that beginning period, which was great. And to be honest, even now, I'm very much project based. So I mean, I try not to, take the mick too much, but today I think I rocked up at 9:30. If I'm going to go pick her up, I might go pick her up about, it's not, to be fair, she's at home today with her mum, but on the days I go pick her up, sometimes I go pick her up about 3:30. And my boss has been great because, both the service manager and my supervisor said, Matt, as long as the work's been deen, I don't care. Come when you want, go when you want. As long
and
as
the understanding that you've got a small child as well anyway.
Yeah. Do you know, he my supervisor, he himself has got a 5-year-old, and he experienced quite a lot of trauma in terms of the birth, sepsis from both the mother and his son. He went through loads of traumas, but he's a very hands-on dad himself, and I think I was reading something recently about our generation of dads being much more hands-on than our parents were to us, and I think from one dad to another, he's just like, yeah, just go do what you need to do. And my wife, she doesn't get like a proper sick pay. It'll be like statutory. So if my daughter's ever ill, I'll take the day off because I'm quite flexible, or I'll work from home. I'll just set my laptop up, and then we're not losing any money. Even my wife can go to work and I can parent from home. And even when I tell them, look, I'm working from home, but I'm parenting from home, that's the little nod to say, look, I'm going to do what I can here, but don't expect too much. Like, yeah, don't worry about it. So I think that's quite nice, really, is having that realistic expectation of what life is like as a parent as well, and that trust as well. For it works both ways. Don't get me wrong. If the work wasn't being done, my employer would be more than being the right to start pulling me up on things about the time I get to work and the time I'm leaving. But everything they're asking for is being done. So there's something about that really where I think trusting in your staff and not micromanaging, and again, if the work's been done, what's the issue? Don't worry if I'm not here until 5 or gone at 9:30.
I would echo that. I think for obvious reasons, currently working in the family hubs, it's obviously very family centred, which includes dads, so they've been really fantastic. But I've also worked in other completely different jobs. I've worked in telecoms and all sorts, and even then I can't fault them. And it was very much the same ethic of, as long as you get done what you need to get done and you're accountable, even if it's, as mine sort of, I was in a different job when my eldest first started school, and it was like, right, can I go and pick him up from school? And then I'll either work from home, whatever. And it was like, as long as you're on the phone, if we need something, or like you say, you've got your basic stuff of your laptops there. So if somebody wants to ask you a quick question, you can access whatever. But we don't expect the world to be done there. And I think that is something that is seeping through. I mean, it's like, well, there's 2 parents here. We have just as much right to go there. I want to go there.
Yeah,
it's not just down to mum. I want to be there. So I think we are definitely going in the right direction.
Slowly but surely, you can see it more, can't you?
I think, and I do speak to a lot of friends that are in similar situations. They're like, yeah, do you know what? Yeah, I'm allowed to go, or I can go. And it's, like I say, it's not that case of, well, I've taken half an hour out, I owe that back. It's like, you've got a family.
Yeah.
Some things crop up. You can't just, oh, look, they've got to go to hospital because they've fallen over. But what I need to do is prioritise work. Nobody has ever said on their deathbed, I wish I'd have spent more time at work. And I think that's a philosophy that is coming through, that actually, do you know what? We all work hard. You know, we joke around in our office that you might work full-time on 37 hours, but that's on the bravado. You give yourself a half an hour lunch break every day, but actually there's weeks and months where you don't do that.
Yeah.
So equally, you go back and you think, well, do you know what? Yeah, I had to leave school early because parents' evening was just before 5 o'clock, or I do have to leave because they've got a doctor's appointment then, and because my other half doesn't drive, it's like, I need to pick up and get them there, otherwise it's public transport, or they could be late, or whatever it's like.
But when you average it out, you give it exactly what you
And at the end of the day, I'm a parent, I want to be there. I don't want it to be like, oh, do you know what, my mum's got it under control.
Can I just touch on the appointment thing? Because just before Kieran answers, I found it quite funny in those early appointments when I'd take her to go get weighed. There was one day I remember where we hadn't got much sleep, so I said to my wife, you know, she was like, oh, I just want to go get a bathroom. Like, so when you get the bathroom, I'll take him. And I walked in and the question's like, so where's mum? And I was like, do you know, if mum had brought, they wouldn't be like, so where's dad? There won't be them sort of questions. And I found like even all the vaccinations, and my wife said to me, I can't sit there and watch her get injected. I can't sit and watch her scream. And this was obviously COVID times as well, so it was only one parent in the room at a time. So with the flexibility I was having at work, I'd go and take her to get her vaccines and things like that. And when I'd walk in, there'd always be like this little bit of I'm assuming you're dad? I'm like, yep. And where is mum?
And I think sometimes as well, health professionals don't get like dads do want to be involved, and dads do want to take them to the injections because mum's
I just don't think there'd be that line of like what you were saying then. I just don't think there'd be that line of question if my wife turned up and said, so where's dad then?
It's almost like you've thrown a spanner in the script. Like the theory is we ask mum these questions, but actually, and like I said, I do think it's got better, and I think because a lot of my appointments were where I worked, it was different because they knew me anyways, but it's almost like you can almost see that glare of, I need to ask these questions, but dad may not know the answer.
Yeah, that was
what I won't do is not know, because it's almost like you can see them going, well, if dad doesn't know, I've got to ask mum again at a different time. So I do think we're getting there, but I do know what you mean. There is times where you can look at it and think, your dad, you can come on your own. It's like, I'm quite within my rights to go.
Yeah, I think that was it as well. Gemma just said that expectancy. Like I had as much knowledge about what was going on with that baby as my wife would have. Yeah. Do you know? So but again, like sometimes someone, I can't remember what it was, but I don't suppose you'll know. And I was like, well, of course I know. I'm her dad. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I am as involved in this process.
It's like the look at you go, oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's just I just found it really, in a way, I found it really annoying in those early appointments that I'd be going in.
My understanding of the situation is that they're looking for signs of things like postnatal depression in the mum and all of those things for her well-being to make sure she is competent enough and capable enough looking after a baby. But then that highlights the issue of them not assuming that you can do that.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing, if that's the case, they definitely weren't looking for it in the dad then, because I was absolutely in there depressed as hell.
Well, I was on the flip side of that. Would they go, do they ask mums? And how's dad? Is dad on the scene? Is dad all right? It's almost like you don't even now, and I know there's obviously reasons slightly off topic. It's like, how many parents are there or children out there where dad's not on the birth certificate?
Yeah.
Which is almost like a sad state of affairs, because you provisionally go out, and I know that there's personal circumstances and there's differences and there's reasons, I get that. But you look at some as well and think, these children have kind of got no male role model. And I think from my role itself, I think that's one massive thing, that actually working with people where
that's what we see a lot in the support, in the support,
It's female orientated. So I work with a lot of dads or male carers where they're like, if I was one dad did say to me, he's like, he got custody of his 2 children, and then to cut a long story short, he said, if I was a single mum, I would be treated differently than I am as a single dad. Yeah. And I was like, that's really sad to hear, but you've got that through your experience. So I would never turn around and say, do you know what, you are done to, because actually that's how you feel. So I think it's nice to know that there are, in like yours as well, Matthew, and yourself, Kieran, there are male role models that people can look to within the service where they go, I've got a voice. Yeah. Like I'm not the odd one out. Yeah. I might be in the minority, but people are there to look at things differently from my perspective.
And from that as well, how do you feel like when single dads have got the sole custody of them? How do you think the services need to change to say, like, these are single dad, they need more help than the mums do. And it is quite, I've seen a lot working in this position, that there's a lot of single dads that have got full custody, and they do, when you talk to them, they're like, oh, well, it's just because I ask the questions, but they're not helping me as much. How can we?
There does seem to be, I've worked with a few, and I think a lot of it was almost from their point of view. It's been a long, drawn out battle and argument for, I've worked with some where they've said, mum's had substance issues, or there's been neglect from mum, or it's just been mum's decided she wasn't in the right space at the right time. And all those reasons that, their personal experiences, and you'd never put somebody down. But it's almost like they've said, but if it was me, it wouldn't be an issue. It's like, well, you're with mum, I'm more caring. It's like, well, why can't I be? And like you also, I think, why, you can almost see those questions drawn back to, but your dad, you should be at work. It's like, but I don't need to be. I can, and I can work around family life.
Well, that was it. That was one of the questions. So, do you not work then? I was like, yeah, I do. I've got a full-time job. Oh, how are you? Because it's flexible. Do you know what I mean? Because that, again, like as you were saying, we don't all work for a 9 to 5 employer where you've got to clock in at 9 and clock out at 5. Do you know? It's just different, isn't it? I guess.
So I do think they are. You don't meet many single dads where it's kind of been, mum decided she couldn't, I've got them, and we've kind of moved on. There's been court battles. And then you get to the, working with some now where mum's getting the benefit entitlement and dad's not, but they're living with dad, and it's like, and dad's kind of viewpoint is, I can't be bothered to start another argument or another discussion because I get on and do what I do. Yes, it would be helpful, but I just get on and do it, and I'm not going backwards to go forwards.
In like where you're from, Kieran, because obviously every town's different. What do you see with single dads in your area? Do you come across a lot, or?
Yeah, we do. We get quite a few. The Father Institute has some really interesting research out about single dads and contact with children from dads. And actually, we think that we talk about the deadbeat dad, don't we? And how so many dads are just not available and not having contact. But actually, there's a massive majority of teenagers at 17 are having contact with both parents. It's just that our systems are set up so that it's only one parent who can claim benefits, claim housing, claim child benefit. So they are seen as the resident parent. And in olden language, we would call that custody, wouldn't we? But that got scrapped in about 1989 with the Children's Act. And we don't even use the word custody now in court proceedings. It's all about where's the residence of the child, and it's all focused on the child rather than the adults and the child's rights to see both. So when we see single dads, we support them in supervised contact with kind of building that relationship. We support them when they're having unsupervised contact or they're building a relationship outside of that. And we signpost into organisations that can help them with things like the court processes, but it is about changing a lot of mindsets because it's a very emotional subject. And actually, there's a lot of people that think women are the main carers because they are the most caring and a natural parent, and they've carried the baby. And actually, we know for the child, both parents are important, and they need to have the right to access both parents, and we can kind of demonstrate that. But if you're point scoring against the other parent, then that isn't good for the child, and the courts will see that that's not good, and that will reflect on what happens there. Co-parenting is all about communication, and unfortunately communication breaks down and it becomes emotional rather than what's best for the kids at the center of it. But it also speaks to how we talked earlier on about record keeping and data collection, and how it's not child-centered, it's mum-centered. So when we're taking our children for appointments and they're asking where mum is, it's because they don't have our notes on their system. They only have mum's notes. They only know who mum is and where she lives, what her contact details are. And if we're turning up to an appointment with a child, they might want to add us to the notes. They might want to find out who we are. But there is a skepticism as to, why is mum not coming to this? Is she trying to avoid us because she's not well, or because she doesn't want to tell us anything, or maybe dad doesn't want her to attend because there's controlling behaviors. There's a whole lot of reasons why they think that. And actually, we could change that by how we record that baby's data, by having the dad there, inviting both parents to everything, using first names instead of using mum or partner. All of that kind of stuff can help. And it does help in some areas, and some services are much more further forward, like parent-infant services are much more inclusive. But then the second point to that is that we all want it to be equal, but it doesn't need to be equal because we're not doing the same job as parents.
Yeah.
And actually, it needs to be equitable rather than equal. We don't all want the same things. Most of the men I know wouldn't want all of that intensive support from all of the services that mums get in that perinatal period, but they should have access to the really important ones like mental health support, parenting support, all that kind of stuff. So it's finding a middle ground, I think.
Yeah. Well, in your line of work, Matt, as well, what do you see with like that? Because obviously it's a bit of a different situation, isn't it?
Absolutely. I find that when it comes to getting well from substances when people have addictions, it can be the catalyst for getting off the drugs when people find out they're pregnant. For some people, there is an absolute disregard for it, and whether they're pregnant or not, still continue into that substance misuse. And them ones are the ones that will often get their babies taken away from them. It's not as common as people think. I think instantly people think substance misuse, addiction, parents, that baby gets removed straight away. It's not the case. I've met plenty of parents on methadone programs, so not taking illicit substances but taking the prescribed opiate substitute medications, that are really good parents. But of course, there are times when babies do need to be removed and
a safeguarding for the child.
I think that's it. And to be honest, I think most women in service completely understand our responsibilities for safeguarding, and they know it's not necessarily personal. It is about just protecting the safety of that child. And I think the way we work with people now, especially when we look at the meme team that we've got on hold and making every adult matter, and the way that we have that wraparound support for people. We've got an excellent family provision as well in in our service for people with substance misuse problems. So yeah, it's a tricky one, but it isn't the stereotype that people will think of. Right, drug addicts, children removed, and this people being involved in a system, children being instantly put into a system. We actually work really well with parents, and I think that's the one thing. We've got senior social workers and social workers in our service now. I think that's been just to go into it a little bit, that's been the credit to services. It used to just be substance misuse and that was it. Now we have mental health workers, family support workers. It's just there's a really big network.
There's me, there's you, and then it's all working as a team and working together just for the focus of the child and the family.
When I first started working there was only 80 people that worked there, but looking at the investment needed and the specialist support for services like ours, it's expanded massively. And I think now our staff team is like close to 150, so we're almost double where we was 9 years ago, really. And that's because of extra funding and looking at additional needs for different people, and realizing that it's addiction isn't a moral failing, it's a very complex health issue, and that's what we're working with. But yeah, I think what we're doing with families is some really, really good work. And of course there are people that instantly think social workers were trying to have the children removed, and that's not the case. I think that's the one thing that we really try and reiterate, is that the best thing for any child is to be with its parent, and we will work hard to make sure that happens. The only time that child will be removed is if we believe they are in immediate danger, or that the parent isn't capable of looking after that child. And of course there's always going to be various levels of the quality of parenting that child will receive, but ultimately it is best for him to still be with the parent. And we've got a lot of parenting programs that we do to help with people. I think if this podcast goes well, I think it'd be a really good opportunity to speak to some of the family workers about the work that's happening in substance misuse services, to try and challenge that stigma of addicts not being capable at being parents. But I will say there is sort of the trope of, as we're saying then, about the deadbeat dad is often the case, sadly. So it is often single mums in that situation, which is why they need that wraparound support, and as we're saying, more support, I guess, in that sort. My wife's she's got a twin sister. They have a little lad, and there's additional needs there. And I think what's quite heartbreaking is that it's their first child, but what's quite heartbreaking is all those ideas, especially the dad, he probably had all these ideas of taking his kid to rugby and things like that when he grows older, and he's just completely obviously the opposite. He just kind of is in his own little world all the time. He's iPad obsessed sort of thing. It's probably not what he's. I mean, he's still obviously embracing it and loving him for who he is. But I think that's one of the things that often scares me, is seeing how even little things that should be quite simple is quite complicated for them to do. And I think when people talk about being ready for children, you can't. I said this to my mum before she went, if you start thinking like that, no one would ever have kids. I was like, yeah, I know, but maybe more people should think about this sort of thing, because I think my worry is, well, I've got two worries. So one, I was completely overwhelmed with one baby. My dad's got a twin sister. My wife's got a twin sister, and her dad has got a twin brother. So there's like this sort of twins all around me. So. Well, that's what exactly. So I'm expecting if I was, so there's a couple of things. It's like if we have another one, I am almost 90% sure it'd be twins. And like, even when we had the first one, the second she put the little thing to the belly, I said, "How many?" That was my first question.
Anyway, because obviously.
And I was overwhelmed with one. So let alone, what I'd be like if I had my daughter and two more. Yeah. But then also I think, my daughter, bless her, she's really smart. Like the amount of words she's saying and how well she turned two just after Christmas. But I'm almost having really conversation. Yeah, I've got like
has
this.
Has the attitude come yet?
I'm getting it a little bit at the moment. Yeah, my wife.
The time will come, believe me.
My wife's getting the blunt of the attitude, but
yeah.
What was it? I had this little sooty puppet, and she picked up the sooty puppet yesterday and said, because I always pick up the sooty puppet and mimic it and say, "Hello Eden, my name's Sooty." So she picked up the sooty puppet, put her hand, and went, "Hello Eden, my name's Sooty," sort of thing. And she's really clever with things, and she's recognising numbers. When I say she's counting, she's knowing the sequence. Yeah. If I said how many biscuits on it, she won't be able to count them.
It's around that age, the start looking at things, so, and the imagination just goes in another draft.
So there's so much there then where it's like, and my wife said to me, how could you not want another one? But part of me is so worried about how experiencing those feelings that I experienced the first time. So like you said, when she mentioned, I was watching telly with her the other day, and she mentioned about, I think I'd want another baby. I pretended not to hear her. I just carried on watching telly because I just didn't want to discuss it. I didn't even want to have the conversation about it because I just think, I don't know. And it's one of them things where I've got an older sister. And someone in the family said, "Oh, well, you've got to give him a sibling to grow up with." I was like, if I found out, no, you don't. If I found out that my whole existence was because my mum and dad wanted my sister to have
breed.
To
need to breed.
Exactly. Yeah. So my sister had someone to play with as a kid. If my whole existence was about that, I'd be furious. So I said this to my wife. I said, if we did decide to have enough children, we've got to really talk about. We're in a 2-bedroom house at the moment as well. I said it'd probably mean moving house.
Think about that kind of thing.
All these sort of logistics and stuff that we'd have to sort out. That I don't think.
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh well, my mum did this and this." I was like, "Yeah."
But as well, both are totally different. Like what so it is like
a lot of ours is situational. So we look at it like September. So it's like, because we're convinced it was a girl, because my dad's side of the family, we're all boys. And we just felt if the stars were aligned and all that, it's like, I've got 2 boys, but here we've lost one. We genuinely believe it was a girl. And it's always like, she'd be in this year at school, or how would you do if we were out going for an adventure? We'd have this little one with us. What would she be like? And it is hard. It really is hard. But yeah, and I still, to this day, we can, when I say laugh and joke about it, it's like, oh, should we have another one? It's like, no.
Yeah.
Like, the conversation starts and ends very quickly with, we're joking about this, aren't we? Like, I'm not.
I know my mum lost a baby not long after me, so I would have had theoretically a little brother or sister. And we spoke about this a couple of years ago. I knew about this. I got told it when I was like a teenager, but we spoke about it as an adult. And like what you were saying, my mum said there was plenty of times where we'd have family days out where she'd be looking, thinking there should be Kerry, Matty, and should be somebody else here. She said, like, even when we go out in the car, there's the 3 seats in the back. Mum said you'd just kind of turn around and sometimes think, oh, what would it be like if that little middle seat was filled as well, And she said, you don't ever not think about that sort of stuff. She said, like, even now I've got kids, I've got a daughter, and my sister's got 3 children. Should you even sort of think in a way like, I could be a grandparent to another set of children if so do you always think about it? It never really goes away.
My child, at one point, she was like, she went, right, it's time to write your Christmas list. She put brother. I'm like, you might have a long wait for that one. Kind of thing. She's like 14 now. And because I found out like 3 of my friends in the space of 2 weeks. 3 of my friends have just found out they were pregnant. So it's like, oh, I'm real broody now. But then, do you know when I think about it, I'm like, I'm too old for this. Do you think I've got the energy to like go through that again? Like, you know, I've got it in me. I'm just trying to get, I'm going on like with friends on like day trips and stuff like that. Yeah. So it is like you've got to think about another person as well. But to be fair, I've got a dog, so he's worse than having a child. I've got to find a dog sitter. So, but yeah, I think it depends as well, like your situation as well, like how you got enough room, money comes into it, do you know, stuff like that.
You've got to change your car sometimes.
Yeah. The worries as well, like past experiences as well with stuff like that. You know, is it going to be healthy? You know, his man does go in.
We've got quite a lot of help with childcare. Like my mum and my sister are helping me. My mum won't take any money off me, but I tend to give my sister a couple of £100 at the end of the month, which is still, I'd probably spend that weekly. Do you know, if I was, so I'm saving a massive amount of money there. Well, this is another thing that I was saying to my wife. It's like the help that we're getting now, we won't necessarily get if we had another one.
No.
But kind of, I think the problem is we met when we was 19 and we both really enjoyed our 20s. We did plenty of travelling, and there's part of me that I ain't been on holiday since 2019. We're on about booking somewhere because it was COVID, then we had a baby, and it's just not happening. I know it sounds bad, but I keep saying I'm looking forward to getting. Now she's 2. Now I'm sort of seeing how she's interacting with things, and we went for a walk yesterday to just around Humber Bridge down the do you know, and she did the walk fine, and I was like, these are the sort of things that 2 years ago when I was, you know, in that despair sort of thing, where I was like, I can't wait to just get to a point where I can do that sort of, you know, I just kind of wanted to skip. Like if my wife said to me,
you can't do much,
and I think,
and that's it.
I think that's a male thing.
Yeah,
I do generally
just want to
like,
jump to the
women, and I'm sort of stereotyping here and generalising. A lot of women prefer the newborn baby stage, where I think a lot of men, they can't wait for being able to like jump in puddles, go for a walk, do this and be quite active, and I think that's just the way we process things.
I mean, it's quite an interesting point, but like for me, I was always looking forward to the next bit because I wasn't enjoying the bit I was in. Like I had postnatal depression, I was physically very ill, and as a result of that I was always thinking, well, I can't wait to feel better, or I can't wait that she can walk by herself because I can't carry her because I'm in too much pain. And when they're a newborn, and you know, for the first year you've got to carry them everywhere. And it was really difficult, even just getting to the point where I can't even change her without a lot of pain. It'd be nice when she's not in nappies. All of these things, it was always, what's the next bit? And
but the funny thing
with you missed it.
That's it. That's the funny thing. So I can be laid in bed and mindful. It's now we're getting obviously the Facebook memories of what she was like this time last year, do you know, and things like that. And she's like, and showed me a picture, and I was like, it's like, look at her here, and I can feel my heart just like. I miss her. I miss her. So like, you miss them, but they're right there with you. Like I was showing her little pictures of her when she was a baby on my phone, and I'm like, who's that? And she's like, it's a baby. I'm like, it's a baby. I said, it's you. But I'm looking at her and I miss her, and she's sat next to me. And I think I was watching something before, and it said, you have a baby, and then suddenly you've got a toddler, and you miss the baby, but it's okay because you've got this toddler. And so the next thing you know, you've no longer got a toddler, you've got a kid, and you miss the toddler, but it's okay because you've got this really cool kid, and the kid, and it's all about appreciating them and the differences of what stage they're at and everything like that. And I completely get it, but you do just look back and think, oh God, I really miss. I miss you.
I'm 14 now, and I do get time hops of videos, and she's in teenage mode, watch off for tea, don't know. Like a decision, do you know what I mean? But when I get the videos, it's like she's bouncing about and she's got a squeaky loud gob, and it's like
it's almost like it's not the same person.
And she's like, take it off. Oh my God. And I'm like, yeah, but it's you. And it's like, oh God, shut up. And then it's like, I'm up upstairs. And I'm like, sat there with you. And I'm like, you know.
Well, it's that thing that they say about the nights are long, but the years are short. And it's very relatable, but only in hindsight. Because at the time, you're like, no, this is a very long night.
Going through these suddenly bounce of her waking up, like the first night, I was in and out that room, and I was just like, oh my God. Because the thing is as well, like you probably, as professionals in this field, you could probably give more advice in it, but every time she asks for me, I'm the one that is going. And I don't know if that's just reinforcing that attachment to me, but like as an example, when my wife leaves for work in the morning, she don't care. She just goes, bye. Don't care. Like this morning when I was leaving, there was tears, there was the meltdown. And I'm thinking, is it because my wife saying, oh, you pander to her too much? She's like, no, I'm not pandering to her. I'm just trying to meet the needs of what she's asking for in terms of what I think is proper emotional development. I don't want her to ever feel like daddy's not there for her when she wants daddy. Do you know what I mean?
You can't love a child too much.
No, exactly. That's my
But she will probably go to that stage of where, when she's about 8 and 9, and she'll just be all for your partner. And then don't feel guilty because she will come back to you because she will be daddy's girl. Kind of think she's got that bond.
But am I doing the right thing by constantly, when she's asking for me, by giving into it and going to it?
But that's the thing, there's no right or wrong. There isn't a manual.
No child's ever been harmed by being loved too much.
Exactly.
And I think, is it as much, in an open-ended question, is it as much reassurance for you?
I think in a way, yeah. And every time,
the emotional well-being side is actually, do you know what? If I go and do that, I feel good knowing that she's all right.
Because of what you was feeling that.
I think this is it. I think just kind of like that. I'll never get that first week. I don't think I've still got over feeling like I wasn't there for her. Like, not that she'll never remember that or not, but like even with,
it lives with you though.
Yeah, exactly. And my wife, whether she did it intentionally or not, I felt guilty that first week because I'd wake up in the morning after 8 hours sleep and I'd probably have about 10 messages off her saying, oh, up again, 4th nappy change and all this. So when she came back, it was like, right, and I've always been that way. But yeah, if we're talking about when missing things after that happened, the first night I was really annoyed. I was getting a bit like, obviously, and I get up out of bed and I'm real, and the second I walk into the room, I'm like, oh, you alright? Do you know what I mean? So my whole like she will not know. She will not know that I'm upset or in a mood. Like I'll never go with angry and go, what did you do? I'd never do anything like that. So I get out of bed and I'm all huffy and I go and I'm like, oh, what's the matter? And I'm there. And
personality change.
Yeah, personality, massive personality change.
Just switch on.
After about 3 hours of this, I just climb in a cot with her, just throw a little blanket over me and I'll just fall asleep in the cot with her. And as I'm cuddling her and I just felt like hold on to my thumb, and it was just a moment where I thought, you know what, thinking of missing things when they're gone, I just thought to myself, don't get annoyed because this is probably going to last a couple of weeks because she's always been a really good sleeper. I said it'll probably last a couple of weeks and there'll be a time when 18 years from now you'll be looking back missing the times when you could probably, when she was. So it's just kind of just
but then she'll have that feel of security of like, I know my dad's there if I'm in trouble or it's more. And as well you're showing her as well that having a good dad around does help kind of thing, but then obviously sometimes you do have that other side as well that kids don't have the dads around at all, but they need some sort of male figure kind of thing, do you know what I mean? Thank you for Calvin from the Family Hub and from Matt from Renew as well, and Kieran from Dad's Matters.
Who's joined us remotely as well, so thank you for that. You missed out on biscuits.
You missed out on your sandwich and your biscuits, but I do appreciate your time and stuff like that, sir, but thank you again. Thanks for joining us.